The bridge stood like a monument to despair, its iron frame corroded by years of neglect and countless tears. It loomed over a forgotten stretch of river, where the water, black as tar, whispered secrets in the dead of night. Locals spoke of the bridge in hushed tones, their eyes shifting nervously to the ground, as if the very mention of it could summon something dark from the depths below. They called it the Suicide Bridge, though no one knew how the name had come to be. Some said it was cursed, others claimed it was simply a place where lost souls gravitated, drawn by an invisible pull that only the truly desperate could feel. The truth, however, was far more sinister. Each plank of the bridge was a memorial, stained with the blood of those who had jumped, their final moments of agony etched into the very wood. The railings were cold and unforgiving, the metal biting into the flesh of those who clung to it, a last-ditch effort to hold on to life before surrendering to the abyss. The bridge had claimed dozens, maybe even hundreds, over the years, but the authorities never bothered to keep count. It was a place forgotten by time, ignored by those who wished to remain blissfully unaware of the darkness that festered there. But the bridge was far from forgotten by the spirits who had met their end upon it. They lingered in the shadows, their forms twisted and grotesque, eyes hollow and mouths stretched into silent screams. On certain nights, when the moon hung low and the fog rolled in thick and suffocating, you could see them, pale figures pacing the length of the bridge, reliving their final moments in an endless loop of torment. One such night, a man named Henry found himself drawn to the bridge, his mind a storm of despair and regret. He had lost everything: his job, his family, his will to live. The bridge called to him, its siren song irresistible, a promise of peace in the void. As he walked the creaking boards, the cold wind cutting through his thin jacket, he could feel the eyes of the dead upon him, watching, waiting. He reached the center of the bridge and looked down into the inky blackness below. The river was a churning mass of darkness, its surface broken only by the occasional ripple, as if something massive moved beneath the waves. Henry shivered, not just from the cold, but from the overwhelming sense of dread that clung to him like a shroud. He placed his hands on the railing, the metal icy against his skin, and leaned forward, closing his eyes. The wind howled around him, carrying with it the faintest of whispers, voices that seemed to come from within the depths of the bridge itself. "Join us," they seemed to say, their tones laced with malice and sorrow. But as Henry prepared to let go, to give himself to the void, he heard something else, a low, guttural growl, the sound vibrating through the bridge, up his legs and into his chest. His eyes snapped open, and he stumbled back, his heart hammering in his chest. The growl came again, louder this time, and with it, the ground beneath him began to shake. From the darkness below, something began to rise. At first, it was just a shape, a massive, writhing form that seemed to defy the laws of nature. As it emerged, the bridge groaned under its weight, the wood splintering and the iron twisting as if it were being pulled apart by some unseen force. The creature was hideous, its body a twisted amalgamation of human limbs and animalistic features. Its skin was slick and wet, like that of a drowned corpse, and its eyes, oh, its eyes, were the worst of all. They were empty, bottomless pits of darkness that seemed to swallow the very light around them, drawing Henry in, paralyzing him with fear. As the creature slithered onto the bridge, its limbs cracking and popping as they elongated, reaching out toward him, Henry realized with a sickening clarity that this was no ordinary monster. It was the bridge itself, or rather, the souls of the damned that had been consumed by it, twisted and fused together into a single entity of pure malevolence. The bridge was alive, and it was hungry. The creature's maw opened wide, revealing row upon row of jagged teeth, each one stained with the blood of its previous victims. It let out a deafening roar, the sound echoing across the river and into the night, a cry of eternal torment and insatiable hunger. Henry tried to scream, but the sound died in his throat, choked off by the icy tendrils of fear that wrapped around his heart. As the creature lunged forward, its massive jaws snapping shut just inches from his face, Henry's mind finally shattered. The last thing he saw before the darkness consumed him was the bridge itself, its planks splintering and twisting into grotesque, skeletal hands that reached out to drag him into the abyss, where he would join the countless others who had fallen before him, their souls forever trapped in the maw of the suicide bridge. Henry's scream, though silent to the world outside, echoed endlessly in his mind as the bridge came alive around him. The skeletal hands that had emerged from the planks grasped at his limbs, their cold, bony fingers digging into his flesh with a relentless force. They pulled him down, dragging him toward the gaping maw of the creature that was both bridge and beast, its form shifting and writhing as if the very structure of the bridge was a living, breathing entity. The creature's teeth, jagged and yellowed with decay, glistened in the moonlight that managed to pierce through the thick fog. Its breath was rancid, a foul stench that carried the essence of rot and death, as if the bridge itself was exhaling the final breaths of all the souls it had claimed. Henry's body convulsed with terror as he was drawn closer, his mind a swirling chaos of fear and disbelief. The bridge moaned, the sound deep and resonant, as if it were mourning the lives it had stolen. The planks beneath Henry's feet trembled, their surfaces slick with a thick, oily substance that smeared his hands as he clawed desperately at the wood, trying to find something, anything, to hold on to. But the bridge offered no mercy, no reprieve. It wanted him, needed him, and it would not let go. As Henry was pulled toward the creature's maw, he could feel the very essence of the bridge invading his mind, its tendrils of darkness seeping into his thoughts, unraveling his sanity thread by thread. He saw visions of the others who had come before him, men, women, even children, each one drawn to the bridge by their own despair, their faces contorted in agony as they were consumed by the darkness. He saw their final moments, felt their pain, their hopelessness, as they were devoured by the entity that now sought to claim him. The bridge was a trap, a malevolent force that fed on the misery of those who crossed it. It lured the broken and the lost, promising them an escape from their suffering, only to deliver them into a nightmare far worse than anything they had known in life. It was a cycle of death and rebirth, the souls of the damned merging with the bridge, becoming part of the creature, their agony fueling its endless hunger. Henry's vision blurred as he was dragged closer to the creature's maw, his body numb with terror. He could see the faces of the dead within the creature's form, their eyes hollow and lifeless, their mouths stretched into grotesque smiles as they watched him approach. They were part of the bridge now, their souls forever trapped in the twisted, hellish amalgamation of flesh and iron that spanned the river. And soon, he would join them. The creature's jaws opened wide, its teeth glistening in the darkness, as it prepared to consume him. Henry's mind screamed in terror, his body trembling as he was pulled toward the abyss. But just as the creature's jaws began to close around him, a sudden, blinding light burst from the darkness, searing through the fog and illuminating the bridge with an ethereal glow. The creature recoiled, its form shifting and writhing as it tried to escape the light. The skeletal hands that had been dragging Henry toward the maw released their grip, retreating back into the planks as the bridge itself seemed to shudder in pain. Henry collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath as the light continued to grow, driving the creature back into the shadows. For a moment, the bridge was silent, the only sound the ragged breaths of the man who had narrowly escaped its grasp. The light pulsed, flickering like a dying flame, before slowly fading away, leaving the bridge once again shrouded in darkness. Henry lay there, his body trembling with shock, his mind struggling to comprehend what had just happened. But he knew, deep down, that he was not safe. The bridge had let him go, but it was still there, still waiting, still hungry. And it would not rest until it had claimed him, just as it had claimed all those who had come before him. With a final, shuddering breath, Henry forced himself to his feet, his legs weak and unsteady beneath him. He had to get off the bridge, had to get away from the darkness that had nearly consumed him. But as he turned to leave, he felt a cold, clammy hand grip his ankle, pulling him back. He looked down, his heart racing, and saw a pale, skeletal hand emerging from the planks, its bony fingers wrapped tightly around his leg. The hand was followed by an arm, then a head, as a figure began to rise from the bridge itself. Its form twisted and grotesque, its eyes empty and hollow. Henry screamed, the sound echoing across the bridge and into the night. As the figure dragged itself up from the depths, its mouth opening wide in a silent scream of its own. The bridge groaned beneath him, the planks splintering and cracking as more hands emerged, reaching out to pull him back into the darkness. And as Henry was dragged down into the abyss, his mind finally shattered. The last thing he saw was the bridge, its form shifting and writhing as it consumed him, adding his soul to the countless others trapped within its depths. The suicide bridge had claimed another victim. Henry's screams dissolved into the cold night air as the bridge consumed him, its iron structure groaning with satisfaction as it absorbed yet another lost soul. The darkness that had claimed him receded, leaving the bridge once again shrouded in an eerie silence. The river below flowed on, uncaring and oblivious, a relentless current of black water that bore witness to the bridge's endless hunger. For a moment, everything was still, as if the world itself had paused to acknowledge the bridge's dark victory. But then, from the shadows at the far end of the bridge, a figure emerged, its form cloaked in darkness. It moved with a deliberate slowness, each step echoing across the planks like a death knell. The figure was tall, its face obscured by the brim of a wide, black hat, and as it approached the spot where Henry had been claimed, the air around it grew heavy with the scent of decay. This was the Keeper, the bridge's eternal guardian, the one who had overseen its transformation from a simple crossing into a gateway to the abyss. The Keeper's eyes, hidden beneath the shadow of the hat, gleamed with a cold, unfeeling light as it surveyed the bridge, its gaze lingering on the place where Henry had vanished. The Keeper had no name, no past, no future, only a purpose. It was bound to the bridge, a slave to its insatiable appetite, tasked with ensuring that the bridge's hunger was always sated. It had watched over the bridge for centuries, its presence a constant, unseen force that guided the desperate and the lost to their doom. And with each soul claimed, the Keeper grew stronger, its bond to the bridge deepening with every sacrifice. As the Keeper stood in the center of the bridge, it raised one hand, the long, bony fingers curling into a fist. From the planks beneath its feet, a faint glow began to emanate, the light growing brighter until it illuminated the entire span of the bridge. The Keeper opened its hand, and the glow intensified, revealing the faces of the souls trapped within the wood, their eyes wide with terror, their mouths open in silent screams. These were the souls of the bridge's victims, their essence bound to the structure for all eternity. They writhed and twisted within the planks, their forms distorted and grotesque, a testament to the horrors they had endured in their final moments. The bridge had taken everything from them, their lives, their hope, their very humanity, and in return, it had given them nothing but eternal torment. The Keeper watched the souls for a moment, its expression unreadable, before closing its hand into a fist once more. The glow faded, and the faces vanished, retreating back into the darkness. The Keeper lowered its hand, its gaze shifting to the river below, where the black water churned and swirled, as if responding to the bridge's malevolent energy. The bridge was satisfied for now, its hunger temporarily appeased, but the Keeper knew it was only a matter of time before the bridge's appetite returned. And when it did, the Keeper would be there, guiding the next victim to their doom, ensuring that the bridge's cycle of death and despair continued unbroken. The Keeper turned away from the river, its footsteps silent as it began to walk back toward the far end of the bridge. As it moved, the fog thickened around it, swallowing its form until it was nothing more than a shadow in the mist. And then, with a final, echoing step, the Keeper was gone, leaving the bridge once again shrouded in darkness. The night wore on, the river flowing steadily beneath the bridge, its black surface reflecting the faint light of the stars above. The world around the bridge was silent, the only sound the occasional creak of the iron structure as it settled into the earth. The fog drifted lazily across the water, curling around the bridge like a lover's embrace, hiding the horrors that lurked within. And so the bridge waited, patient and eternal, its hunger never truly gone, only lying dormant until the next lost soul wandered into its grasp. For the suicide bridge was more than just a place. It was a living, breathing entity, a doorway to the abyss that fed on the despair of those who crossed it. And it would continue to feed. For as long as there were lost souls in the world, the bridge would never be satisfied.